The jagged horizon of Vera Prime glimmered beneath a copper-red sky, its rocky spires casting long shadows over the scattered settlements clinging to the planet's surface. Dust swirled in thin currents, stirred by a wind that felt almost alive in the eerie silence. Captain Elias Thorne stood on the observation deck of the Resolute, the flagship of the Human Defense Coalition's Andromeda Squadron. His eyes swept across the orbiting platforms, asteroid belts, and fragile colonies below. The universe was quiet, but he knew the silence was a warning. "Captain, fleet formation is complete," Commander Lyra Vale reported, her voice calm but taut. "Sensors confirm 3 Xylar dreadnoughts exiting FTL corridors. Their numbers exceed our projections by a factor of 7. Thorne's gaze remained fixed on the holographic display floating above the console. 7 times their strength. A human would see doom. Thorne saw opportunity. "Good," he said quietly. "They rely on predictability. We'll give them unpredictability instead." Lyra's brow furrowed. "We're not talking minor skirmishes. Entire colonies are within their strike radius. If we fail..." "We won't fail," Thorne interrupted, voice steady. "We fight smart, we fight human. Machines calculate. Humans adapt, improvise, endure. Remember that, and you'll understand why we survive when others fall." The bridge fell silent, the crew absorbing the weight of their captain's words. Courage was not absence of fear, it was mastery of it. "Preparations complete," Lyra continued. "Weapons online, shields at maximum, drones in standby. Your orders?" Thorne traced a line across the holographic map. Dots of light represented human ships, fragile yet defiant. Beyond them, the Xylar formation grew, a dark tide poised to crush. "Lure them into the asteroid field at Vector 67. Decoys first, then mining drones. Once they engage, flank from the periphery. Target the command ship. Disrupt coordination. They're predictable, we are not." Ensign Cade hesitated at the communications panel. "Captain, if the dreadnoughts withstand our initial strike..." "They won't," Thorne said softly, locking eyes with the young officer. "Humans survive because we fight when others retreat, because we innovate when logic says we can't. Doubt is a luxury they give us. Use it. They will regret it." The ensign swallowed, fear replaced by resolve. Every soldier aboard knew the truth, fear existed, but it did not define them. Only action did. Thorne moved to the viewport, observing the colony below. Tiny lights blinked along cliffside homes, hydroponic terraces, and communication arrays. Children slept in fragile safety, farmers tended stubborn crops, engineers monitored satellites. Humanity had carved brilliance from a harsh world, and the Xylar sought to erase it. "They think this is easy for them," he muttered. "Captain," Lyra's voice interrupted, calm as ever. "Comms are receiving a Xylar transmission. Surrender or be erased. Humanity is obsolete." "Obsolete?" Thorne allowed a small smile. "History is written by the living, not the arrogant. Send this back, try us." The reply flashed across the void. The stars swallowed it. The enemy, unaware of the storm approaching, did not yet understand human unpredictability. Time stretched tautly. Minutes felt infinite as the fleet assumed position. Drones darted among asteroids, artificial gravity warped sensor readings, and decoy ships hummed false patterns. Each move was deliberate, a calculated gamble relying on human intuition rather than raw computation. Thorne walked the bridge, speaking briefly at each station. "Eyes sharp. Anticipate the unexpected. Remember, we do not merely survive, we endure." His authority was quiet, but absolute. Every officer responded with precise action. This was a human army, flawed, unpredictable, brilliant, dangerous. Then the first lights of the Xylar ships appeared, piercing darkness with cold precision. Plasma arcs shimmered along their hulls, engines humming in a rhythm that was felt as much as heard. The dreadnoughts were enormous, terrifying in design, but they moved predictably. Thorne's hand hovered over the holotable. He had anticipated their approach. "Engage drones," he commanded. Draw them into the field. Fire only on my order. The fleet reacted instantly. Drones zipped forward, explosive cores primed, while decoys led the Xyler into treacherous asteroid tunnels. For a heartbeat, the universe seemed to hold its breath, the calm before the inferno. Lyra's whisper cut through the hum of the bridge. Captain, the first dreadnought is responding. Maneuvers predictable, just as you predicted. A flicker of satisfaction crossed Thorn's face. Good. Let them learn the cost of underestimating humans. Below, life persisted. Above, humans held their breath. And in that quiet, fragile moment, human determination flared brighter than any star. The first shots were about to be fired. The asteroid field loomed like a jagged maze of steel and stone, a natural fortress forged by time. The Resolute and its squadron moved carefully, weaving between massive rocks as their decoy ships darted ahead, shimmering faintly under false energy signatures. Captain Elias Thorne stood at the command console, eyes scanning every sensor feed, every flicker of light. Humanity's survival hung on anticipation and split-second decisions. Captain, Lyra Vale said, voice clipped. Xyler formation entering engagement range. Their first dreadnought is aligning for a direct pass through the field. Probability of collision minimal, but lethal if miscalculated. Thorne's fingers hovered above the holotable. They think their precision makes them invincible. It doesn't account for chaos, Lyra. Launch the electromagnetic pulses on my mark. Let's see how predictable they remain under fire. Understood, she said. A fleet of drones surged forward, their cores humming with latent energy. They darted around asteroids, their movements erratic but deliberate, designed to confuse the Xyler sensors. Moments later, a pulse of electricity rippled through the void, lancing the lead dreadnought. Its shields flickered as sensors misread false targets, and the first cracks of panic flashed across alien holograms on Thorne's display. The bridge erupted with controlled activity. Every officer executed precise commands, the chaos choreographed into lethal efficiency. Drones successful, Lyra reported. Command ship disrupted. They're adjusting, slightly slower than expected. Thorne nodded, a brief smile crossing his face. Good. Deploy flanking cruisers. Hit them while they recalibrate. Show them that unpredictability is human. Across the field, the Xyler ships shifted rigidly, their coordination precise but rigid, unable to adapt quickly to the unpredictable human maneuvers. Plasma streaks sliced through space, narrowly missing asteroids that would have turned into deadly projectiles. One human cruiser, the Defiant, darted between massive boulders and fired a concentrated salvo at the dreadnought's side. Explosions rippled along its energy plating, a staccato of fire and metal. Captain, Cade whispered, gripping the console. They're targeting our outer cruisers. Incoming fire, diverting shields. Let them, Thorne said. Each hit they take is a lesson in human resilience. His eyes narrowed. Remember, we endure where machines fail. Predict their moves, exploit their rigidity, and strike with precision where they least expect it. The Xyler commander, High Strategist Valorn, observed through the ship's network. His elongated limbs gestured over controls, sending commands that humans could not hear but could infer by the pattern of incoming fire. He underestimated them. His arrogance, centuries in the making, blinded him to the unpredictable element of humanity. Captain, Lyra reported, we've damaged the command dreadnought's forward shields. They're attempting evasive maneuvers. Probability of system-wide overload, high. Thorne allowed himself a brief, satisfied nod. Prepare the mining drones for final strike. Lock trajectories. Timing is everything. Humanity doesn't just endure, we strike when the moment is right. The drones zipped through the asteroid field with uncanny precision, guided by human instinct rather than programming. Each carried a payload designed to destabilize the dreadnought's energy cores. Thorne watched the display, heart steady but adrenaline high. The first strike had worked. Now, the counterpunch would define the battle. Impact in 3, 2, 1, fire! Thorne's command was calm, final, absolute. Explosions blossomed along the dreadnought's hull, white-hot energy corroding its plating. The Xyler ship groaned as internal systems overloaded. Their sensors, designed to detect human ships, were overwhelmed by the unpredictable pattern of drones, debris, and electromagnetic interference. The bridge of the Resolute hummed with tension. Every officer knew the stakes. "Captain, outer cruisers reporting heavy damage," Lyra said. "Casualties mounting." Thorn's gaze remained unshaken. "This is war. Every life is precious, but victory requires risk. Keep focus. Protect the civilians, but remember, we are the shield and the spear." Suddenly, a warning blared. One of the smaller cruisers, the Vigil, had been caught in a miscalculated asteroid drift. Alarm screamed. Cade's hands flew across the console. "Captain? Collision imminent! Divert auxiliary thrusters, Vector 71. Thorn barked. "Manual override. Think like a human, not a machine." The Vigil lurched, narrowly avoiding destruction. Cheers erupted quietly on the bridge, but there was no celebration. In space, survival was temporary, and the enemy never rested. Meanwhile, the Xyler dreadnought's response was swift. High-energy plasma tore through the asteroid field, vaporizing debris and drones alike. Ships rocked under the force, shields flickering as secondary explosions cascaded across the field. Thorn's eyes narrowed. "Adjust shields. Maintain formation. Let them exhaust themselves chasing ghosts. Then we hit again." The humans executed a maneuver no Xyler sensor could predict, simultaneous flanking from both sides, exploiting gaps created by the asteroid field and decoy patterns. Plasma fire met energy plating, metal screamed, and explosions lit the darkness in bursts of brilliant orange and white. "Captain, command ship unstable. Systems failing," Lyra exclaimed. "Good," Thorn said simply. "Keep pressure. Humanity survives by thinking differently, by refusing predictability. This is how we win against superior firepower, innovation, timing, and courage. Never forget who we are." For minutes, the battlefield became chaos incarnate. Humans fought with every ounce of ingenuity, improvising maneuvers, repairing damaged systems mid-combat, and coordinating strikes with an adaptability no machine could match. The dreadnought groaned under the onslaught, internal systems melting, while outer ships were battered but alive. Finally, the first dreadnought, crippled and smoldering, drifted helplessly into the void, its shields failing, engines dead. Thorn allowed himself a measured exhale. Victory was temporary, but it was a message. Humanity fought with more than weapons. They fought with spirit. Lyra leaned toward him, voice tight with urgency and relief. "Captain, they're not finished. More dreadnoughts approaching. We've made a dent, but this is only the beginning." Thorn's expression hardened. "Let them come. Humanity survives because we endure. And we'll make sure they remember that every second of this battle." The Resolute adjusted its course, guiding the battered fleet out of the worst of the asteroid field. Fires burned on distant ships, alarms blared, and debris floated through the void. Yet, for the first time in this engagement, hope shimmered across the human bridge. They had struck first blood, not through superior technology, but through courage, ingenuity, and an unyielding refusal to be defined by numbers alone. The Xyler Collective had underestimated humanity. That mistake would cost them dearly. The surface of Vera Prime trembled beneath the advancing Xyler ground forces. Dust and rubble swirled in choking clouds, lit intermittently by streaks of plasma fire. Captain Elias Thorne descended from orbit aboard a drop shuttle with a contingent of Marines and engineers. The humans were outnumbered 10-1, outgunned, and facing the harshest terrain in the sector. Yet, as always, Thorne saw opportunity in adversity. "Status report," he barked over the shuttle's intercom, scanning the rocky expanse below. Terraces of human settlements clung to cliff sides, hydroponic farms flickering faintly with life. Civilians had begun evacuation, but the Xyler would arrive faster than any transport. Lieutenant Mara Kessler's voice came through, sharp and unwavering. "Ground defenses are prepared, Captain. Mines deployed along primary approach vectors, barricades reinforced, and electromagnetic traps aligned. Civilians are moving to safe zones under escort. Thorn nodded, gripping the edge of his seat as the shuttle's engines cut out, sending them skimming low above the jagged terrain. Good. But traps alone won't win this fight. Humans endure because we think when others follow protocol. We adapt. Improvisation wins wars. As they touched down, the first flashes of Xylar plasma lit the horizon. Alien walkers, towering and angular, advanced relentlessly. Their movements were precise, coldly predictable, designed to crush resistance without hesitation. "Take cover!" Thorn yelled. Marines dove behind boulders and collapsed terraces. Engineers scrambled to activate concealed rail-mounted turrets, their energy cores humming to life. Explosions erupted as the Xylar met the first line of human defense. Plasma struck barricades, throwing showers of sparks, but the humans held. Thorn moved through the chaos, issuing orders. "Mara, redirect turrets to Vector 32. Cade, set demolition charges on the lower ridge. Force them through the canyon. They'll be channeled into our kill zone. Remember, we don't just fight, we manipulate the battlefield." Xylar walkers hesitated only briefly, then pressed forward. Their sensors tracked the predictable lines of human fire, expecting linear engagement. But the humans did not act linearly. Teams surged from concealed trenches, collapsing scaffolds to block paths, detonating charges in staggered sequences. A smaller squad, led by Lieutenant Kessler, flanked a group of walkers through a hidden gorge, striking at weak points in their energy plating. Thorn's eyes narrowed. Perfect. Humanity survives not because we have the strongest weapons, but because we know the value of ingenuity and courage. Keep pressing. Despite their victories, losses mounted. Human Marines fell, their sacrifice buying seconds for civilians to escape. Thorn moved between positions, reinforcing morale. "Every life matters," he said firmly. "But no life is meaningless if it buys a second, a meter, a chance for others to survive. That is the human way." In the chaos, a small civilian convoy attempted to navigate the cliffs, guided by engineers. Xylar plasma scorched the path, cutting debris across the narrow terraces. A young engineer, barely 16, shouted over the explosions. "Captain? They're blocking the canyon exit! Civilians trapped!" Thorn's mind raced. "Kessler, take your squad left flank. Use the slope to create diversionary fire. Cade, deploy smoke emitters on Ridge 10. We create illusions, we make them fight ghosts." Minutes later, the humans executed the maneuver. Smoke and debris disguised troop movements. Plasma fire struck at empty terraces. Walkers stumbled into traps, mines detonated under mechanical feet, and human soldiers struck from unexpected angles. Civilians slipped through the chaos, guided by ingenuity and courage rather than sheer firepower. Amid the battle, Thorn caught sight of Valorn's personal envoy, a sleek, agile scout unit transmitting battlefield data back to orbit. Thorn realized the Xylar commander was attempting to adapt, using their data to predict human tactics. "Prepare the ion disruptors," Thorn ordered. "We won't just endure, we'll teach them to respect the unpredictable. Every strike, every maneuver, is proof that humans cannot be reduced to algorithms." As the disruptors powered up, a volley of plasma slammed into the canyon walls, sending showers of rock onto advancing walkers. The Xylar unit staggered, their coordination faltering under the unexpected interference. Thorn smiled grimly. "Chaos favors the prepared mind. Humanity survives because we anticipate, improvise, and strike where others cannot." Yet, victory was fragile. The Xylar adapted faster than expected, advancing through multiple vectors simultaneously. The humans were forced back toward the colony core, where civilians still needed protection. Explosions rocked terraces, fires spread, and the acrid smoke burned lungs and eyes. "Captain, we're being overrun at Ridge 14!" Kessler shouted. "They've broken through the outer defenses." Thorn's voice remained calm. "Form the secondary line. Draw them into the open plaza. Civilians first, then traps and turrets. Every meter counts." Every second matters. The humans executed a desperate but precise series of maneuvers. Barricades collapsed to funnel walkers into kill zones. Turrets fired in synchronized bursts. Mines detonated in chains. Human soldiers struck swiftly, exploiting every weakness. Amid the chaos, Thorn's mind turned to the larger picture. This was only the beginning. The Xylar had underestimated human resolve, but the war was far from over. Still, every victory, no matter how small, proved the truth that had carried humanity across galaxies: courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender were weapons no machine could match. As the sun set behind jagged cliffs, casting the battlefield in crimson light, human forces held their precarious positions. Civilians had survived the first assault. Xylar walkers lay scattered, some destroyed, others immobilized. Fires burned, but the colony endured. Thorn stood atop a collapsed terrace, surveying the aftermath. Exhaustion weighed on every face, yet pride shone brighter than any exhaustion. "This is why we endure," he said, voice carrying over the smoke. "Not because the odds favor us, but because we refuse to be defined by them. Humanity survives. Humanity fights. Humanity adapts." From the cliffside, the distant hum of approaching dreadnoughts reminded him that the battle in orbit was far from concluded. Yet down here, on the ground, humans had earned their first victory. They had proven that even against overwhelming force, the human spirit was a weapon more formidable than the Xylar could ever anticipate. The inferno had only just begun. And humans were ready. The sky above Vera Prime was torn by fire and smoke. Orbital debris tumbled past in slow arcs, the remnants of destroyed Xylar dreadnoughts drifting as silent testimony to human defiance. Captain Elias Thorne stood on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes locked on the enemy fleet still regrouping in orbit. The ground battle had bought humanity a fragile reprieve, but survival demanded a counteroffensive. "Captain, fleet status," Commander Lyra Vale reported. "Cruisers and frigates are damaged but operational. Drones at maximum efficiency. Ground forces report Xylar walker activity decreased but still advancing. Civilians secured in core shelters." "Good," Thorne said, voice calm but commanding. "We're not just holding, we strike. Humanity survives by doing what others cannot predict. Prepare orbital assault coordination with ground forces. Timing will be everything." A tactical hologram flickered to life, displaying both the orbiting Xylar formation and the canyon-bound ground units. Thorne traced the enemy's movements with a practiced eye. "We hit them from 3 vectors simultaneously. Ground units strike from the canyon, fleet flanks from the asteroid belts, and drones initiate diversionary maneuvers. Synchronize fire. Hit command centers first. Humanity will not be divided." The Xylar, under High Strategist Valorn's command, adjusted formations with their usual precision. Yet even their centuries of planning could not anticipate the creativity of humans. Their drones intercepted some human decoys, but the flanking maneuvers arrived faster than their calculations had predicted. "Captain, countdown to orbital strike," Lyra said. 3, 2, 1, execute." Plasma beams cut through the void, striking the dreadnoughts' hulls with precise timing. Simultaneously, the ground forces triggered a series of collapses along canyon ridges, funneling Xylar walkers into minefields and improvised kill zones. Explosions erupted in chaotic harmony, the soundless violence of space contrasting the thunderous destruction on the planet below. Thorne moved to the communications console. "To all units, remember, we are more than machines. Every strike, every maneuver, every life defending another is proof that humanity cannot be predicted or controlled. Fight with courage, fight with ingenuity. Make them pay for every inch they try to take." In orbit, the Resolute and its squadron weaved through debris fields, plasma fire scorching hulls, shields flickering under stress. Human pilots executed impossible maneuvers, exploiting asteroid cover, and using the unpredictability of debris to their advantage. One cruiser, the Defiant, feinted toward the Xylar center, drawing their fire while smaller vessels struck from blind angles. Meanwhile, on the ground, Thorn watched as Lieutenant Mara Kessler's squad used electromagnetic pulse grenades to disable multiple walkers at once. Civilians cheered silently from behind barricades as human ingenuity turned death into survival. Every maneuver, every explosive, was precise chaos designed by minds unbound by algorithms. High Strategist Valorn's voice echoed through the Xylar network. Captain Thorn, human tactics are illogical, adaptive, unacceptable. Thorn's lips curled into a grim smile. We are not machines, Valorn. That is why we endure. The climax of the battle approached. The largest Xylar dreadnought, Valorn's flagship, hovered above Vera Prime, ready to obliterate the human core. Thorn activated the final phase of his plan. A coordinated strike. Ground units launched tethered drones to disable shields. Orbital cruisers fired synchronized volleys at structural weak points, and the Resolute itself pierced the enemy's formation, engines at maximum output. Plasma fire collided with energy plating, explosions shattering the vacuum in brief flashes of light. The dreadnought groaned as energy cores overloaded. Internal systems erupted, and Valorn's confidence faltered. The alien commander's arrogance had blinded him to human adaptability, and now it was his downfall. On the bridge, Cade shouted, "Captain, flagship systems critical! Shields failing!" "No," Thorn said, voice sharp. "Final strike. Humanity strikes where others cannot predict." The coordinated human assault tore the dreadnought apart. Energy cores detonated in a brilliant, controlled explosion. Debris scattered in orbit, sending shockwaves through the Xylar formation. Remaining ships faltered, their organization disrupted by the simultaneous assault from above and below. "Captain, it's over," Lyra said, barely believing the scope of their victory. Thorn did not relax. "Not over," he said. "We've won this battle, but the war continues. Remember this day, humans endure. Humans fight. Humans adapt. And no force, no matter how advanced, will ever make us predictable." On the surface, cheers rose from soldiers and civilians alike. The ground trembled with the residue of destruction, yet humans had survived against overwhelming odds. Thorn walked among his people, inspecting the damage, lending reassurance, and planning for recovery. His presence was calm authority, a reminder that survival was not luck but the product of courage, intellect, and relentless effort. In orbit, the surviving Xylar ships retreated, unwilling to face further unpredictable human tactics. Valorn's arrogance had blinded him to the essence of humanity, creativity, resilience, and the unyielding spirit to survive against impossible odds. Thorn addressed both ground and orbital forces over intercoms. "Today, we have shown that humanity cannot be quantified, cannot be predicted, cannot be crushed by numbers or technology alone. We fight, we endure, we win. Remember this, not as soldiers, but as humans. This is our defining truth." The sun set behind the cliffs of Vera Prime, casting long shadows over battered settlements and smoke-filled skies. Humanity had survived the first wave of annihilation. They were wounded, but alive. And more importantly, they had proven that ingenuity, courage, and determination were weapons no machine could ever match. Thorn stood on the cliff edge, watching the stars flicker above. The Xylar retreat was temporary, but the lesson was permanent. Humans could adapt, improvise, and endure. No matter the technology, no matter the odds, the human spirit was indomitable. "Captain," Lyra said softly, standing beside him, "they'll return." Thorn's gaze remained fixed on the horizon. "Let them come. Humanity will be ready. And next time, they'll learn that underestimating us is their greatest mistake." In that moment, amid smoke, fire, and shattered terrain, humanity stood victorious, not because they were the strongest, but because they were human. And against all odds, humans had won.